I don't think we could have prepared the kids because nobody had any idea how bad Harvey was going to be. My husband and I grew up in Puerto Rico on an island where hurricanes were pretty normal. So we were like, it's a hurricane, we're going to be fine. We've got bottled water and canned food and it's going to be fun. It's always fun. You get to meet with your neighbors, the power's out, you know, it's a party. That's kind of how we prepared the kids.
I have never been through a hurricane before, and that really scared me. I was like, oh my gosh, are we gonna be safe? I don't wanna go. I wanna stay.
That night we had all the kids in our bed. We slept on the floor beside them. Everybody wore a headlamp, and there were more than 26 tornado warnings between midnight and 4 a.m. Again, I just had no idea what to expect, and so I didn't know how serious those warnings were, and I did not get a wink of sleep because all I could think about is I have to listen to hear that sound of the railroad train coming.
We did not expect a flood, so we were actually downstairs when the water came in, and Mayor was sitting on the floor playing with something, and all of a sudden his tushy got wet and he had no idea how that happened. Do you remember? The water came in?
Yeah, because the water came inside the house.
Able to stay. Fortunately, we had actually a 2.5 story house, so we could have gone up on a 3rd floor if we needed to. So we felt very lucky in that sense. But we stayed, and the only reason we would have needed to evacuate is if, you know, it took way too long for the water to recede and we ran out of food. So my brain was sort of churning on how we would escape if we needed to, but we luckily had a lot of time on our hands to let the water recede, and we also had lots of snack foods and stuff, and water with us, so I felt lucky about that.
My brother got in touch with me and said his house was flooding very quickly. They were gonna have to make plans and get out. So we decided to go get them while we could, because we weren't sure how much longer we'd be able to drive within the neighborhoods. So we drove as close as we could to the end of his street and waited for him to come out on a raft. It was him and his girlfriend and their dogs. It was probably about an 1.5-hour journey, and it was amazing. It was just unbelievable that this neighborhood was now completely underwater.
I think the part that probably was the most heart-wrenching for me was we were on the boat and I had stashed, you know, some snacks for the kids, hoping that by the time we got to like a shelter or somebody's house, we'd be fine. We were soaking wet, it was cold. My daughter kept saying she was hungry, my 7-year-old, and she had already eaten the 1 granola bar that she packed. And I was kind of like encouraging her to save it because we didn't know when was the next time we were gonna eat. And that sounds so crazy that we went through that. It is crazy. And it doesn't help that she has food allergies, so you can't just show up at a shelter and be like, hey, we can't have nuts, we can't have dairy, it's life-threatening. So I was freaking out.
I guess as a mom, I really was most worried about my kids being traumatized, you know, what memories they would have of this situation, and whether they would be afraid to be in their house, whether they would be afraid of rain and thunderstorms. And, you know, I didn't want that for them. I didn't want them to see their house flood and to have that memory of their home.
One thing that we can all take away from it is that it was definitely a terrible time for the city of Houston. But we often find that it's during the worst of times that we see the best in people, and that absolutely came to fruition during Hurricane Harvey.
You know, I think what we learned about this whole Harvey experience is how amazing the city of Houston is. Our church showed up with buckets and helping to clean up stuff and with emotional support, and they helped my parents, you know, when they lost everything, and people were bringing food, people were calling and texting and making sure everybody was okay. I think the biggest thing we learned about Harvey is, honestly, Houston's an amazing city. We are Houston strong.
I learned that we have an incredible community around us. I learned that God will provide, and that it's okay to need help. It's okay to need to be rescued sometimes. I learned that this is where I want to be, this is where I want to live, in a community like this.